Welcome to the very first episode of our new series, diving deep into the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. And trust me, we're not here to just summarize. We're here to dissect, reflect, and sometimes even question these laws. Right, Chloe?
Absolutely. This isn't about memorizing rules. It's about understanding human nature, strategy, and how power actually works in the real world. And today, we're starting strong with Law 1, never outshine the master. It sounds harsh, doesn't it?
Yeah, at first glance, it sounds almost manipulative, like hide your talents so you don't offend anyone above you. But when you really sit with it, you realize it's about something deeper, the fragility of ego and the importance of awareness in hierarchical dynamics.
Exactly. This law isn't saying you should dumb yourself down. It's about reading the room, knowing when to shine and when to hold back. Because the moment your light makes someone above you feel threatened, especially someone in power, you're not gaining influence, you're inviting conflict.
There's a brutal honesty in this law. It acknowledges something people rarely talk about, that power doesn't always reward merit. It protects itself. Masters, leaders, bosses, they don't always want to be surpassed, even if they say they do.
And that's such a key point. People in positions of power are still human. They have insecurities, pride, fears. If your brilliance highlights their shortcomings, even unintentionally, it can trigger their defensiveness, and that's when things get dangerous.
It's like, imagine you're the new person on a team. You're sharp, you bring fresh ideas, maybe even better solutions than your manager. If you're not careful in how you present that, your competence can come across as a threat, not a contribution.
Exactly. It's all about how you position yourself. The same idea, presented with humility and tact, can be welcomed, or if delivered with too much confidence or flair, can be perceived as arrogance, even if your intention is just to help.
And that's what Greene is getting at. He's not telling you to be mediocre. He's telling you to be strategic, to understand that making someone in power feel small is a bad long-term move, no matter how right you are.
That's why I think this law has less to do with ego and more to do with emotional intelligence. Knowing when to shine and, more importantly, when to let others shine is a powerful form of influence in itself.
And ironically, sometimes the best way to rise is to lift someone else up first, especially if that someone is your master, so to speak. When they feel respected and secure, they're more likely to elevate you, or at least not block your path.
Exactly. But let's be honest, this isn't easy, especially in a world that tells you to be authentic, to stand out, to show your skills all the time. Holding back feels counterintuitive, but that's why this law is so important. It teaches restraint.
And it's funny, the more we dig into this law, the more it becomes clear that it's not just about formal hierarchies, like bosses or leaders. It applies in all kinds of relationships, parents and children, mentors and students, even friendships.
Yes, power dynamics exist everywhere, whether we like it or not. You might not have a master in the traditional sense, but you definitely have people in your life who expect to be seen as the authority or the one who's in the know. And if you unintentionally outshine them, boom, tension.
And sometimes it doesn't even matter if you meant no harm. The damage happens in their perception. If they feel threatened, you're already at a disadvantage. That's what makes this law so subtle. It's not about your intent, it's about their ego.
That's a hard pill to swallow, honestly, because we grow up thinking that if you do your best and show your talent, the world will reward you. But Greene flips that idea on its head. He says, hold up, power isn't fair. It's emotional. It's fragile.
It's almost like learning a new language, the language of power. And this law is like lesson 1. Don't make the person above you feel replaceable, because when people feel replaceable, they get defensive. And when people get defensive, they sabotage.
So the big question is, how do you balance this? How do you be excellent without making others feel inferior? How do you shine without overshadowing?
Honestly, I think it comes down to tact, to presentation. You can still share your ideas, still contribute, still be great, but you have to frame it in a way that uplifts the people above you or makes them feel included.
Like giving credit, making your ideas feel like our ideas, using language that connects instead of competes. For example, building on what you said instead of, actually, I have a better way.
Yes, or even asking for guidance, not because you need it, but because it allows the master to feel like the master. Like, I've been exploring this solution, but I'd love your thoughts on how to refine it. That small shift in wording can save you from big drama.
And let's be real, there's a bit of ego management here, your own and theirs. You have to be confident enough in your abilities that you don't need to prove them all the time. That's power too, the power of knowing when to hold back.
That's such a good point. Sometimes real power isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about being so grounded that you can observe, choose your moment, and strike when it actually matters, not just when your ego wants validation.
Exactly. And let's not forget, in many cases, the people above you know you're talented. They just want to feel secure around you. They want to feel respected. If you give them that without faking it, they're far more likely to become your allies instead of your obstacles.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic. The law says never outshine the master, but maybe what it's really saying is make the master feel like a master, even when you're playing 3 levels above them.
And that takes wisdom, because it's not about suppressing your brilliance, it's about learning when and how to reveal it.
You know, Chloe, one of the things I realized while reading Green's example for this law is how often history repeats this pattern. People rising too fast, shining too bright, and getting crushed not because they failed, but because they succeeded too well in front of the wrong person.
Yeah, like the story of Nicolas Fouquet, the finance minister of Louis XIV. He threw this massive, extravagant party at his estate, trying to impress the king. And it worked too well. The king felt overshadowed, humiliated even, and had him arrested shortly after.
Right? Fouquet was brilliant, cultured, powerful, but his fatal mistake was forgetting that no matter how smart you are, if your power threatens the perception of someone higher up, especially someone with real authority, they'll react emotionally, and in this case, with exile.
It's wild, because it shows that power isn't always logical. It's personal. And in environments where ego is everything, like royal courts, politics, corporate leadership, the smallest misstep in how you present yourself can turn allies into enemies.
And that story is ancient, but still plays out today. In offices, creative teams, startups, you name it. How many times have we seen someone new enter a company, blow everyone away with their talent, and then suddenly they're let go or sidelined?
Exactly. And everyone's like, wait, what happened? They were so good. But that's the thing. They were too good, too fast, without managing the dynamics around them. It's like social gravity pulled them down because they climbed too quickly.
And I think one of the hardest parts of this law is learning to slow yourself down, especially when you know you're capable, when you have the answers, the skills. You have to develop that discipline to ask, is this the right time to reveal this?
That's where the long game comes in. Because if you can manage your presence early on, make others feel comfortable with your growth, you actually set yourself up for more influence later. It's not about playing small, it's about pacing your power.
It reminds me of martial arts, actually. A good fighter doesn't throw every punch at once. They study their opponent, conserve energy, strike with precision when the time is right. That's how they win, not just through strength, but through timing.
That's a beautiful analogy, because it shows that strategy isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And when you apply that mindset to your career, your relationships, your creative work, you start to see that restraint can be a form of leadership.
Absolutely. And here's something subtle. When you practice this law well, people don't even notice you're doing it. They just feel safe around you. They feel respected. And over time, that builds trust. And trust gives you real influence.
It's like being the quiet storm in the room. You don't have to announce your strength. People sense it. And because you're not using it to dominate, they're drawn to you instead of defensive.
And let's be honest, power that doesn't trigger alarm bells in others, that's sustainable power. That's the kind of influence that lasts.
You know, Alex, something else I think is worth mentioning is how this law requires a shift in how we define success. Because sometimes success isn't about being the brightest light in the room. It's about lasting in the room long enough to make real change.
Exactly. There's short-term recognition, and then there's long-term positioning. And I think a lot of people fall into the trap of thinking visibility equals power. But as Green shows us over and over, real power often hides in the shadows.
And that's so counterintuitive, especially in today's world. We live in the age of personal branding, of going viral, of putting everything on display. But this law suggests that being strategically invisible at the right moments is just as important.
It's almost like choosing when to be visible is the new superpower. You don't have to be the loudest. You just need to show up at the right moment in the right way so people feel your impact without feeling threatened.
And it takes a lot of emotional discipline to do that, to know you could take the spotlight, but instead you wait, you read the room, you let others have their moment, and when the time comes, you step in with calm confidence, not with ego.
It reminds me of what you said earlier. This law is about emotional intelligence, understanding how your presence affects others, not just in what you say, but in how you say it, how you carry yourself, how much space you take up.
Yeah, it's not about shrinking, it's about calibrating, being aware of the dynamics around you, who's insecure, who needs reassurance, who's watching, and then adjusting your behavior not out of fear, but out of strategic awareness.
And this is where people sometimes push back. They say, but that's fake, or I don't want to play games. But here's the thing, life is full of games. Power is a game. Influence is a game. The question is, are you playing consciously or not?
Totally. Being unaware of the game doesn't mean you're not in it. It just means you're probably losing without realizing. And that's what Green is offering here. Not manipulation, but awareness, tools, language to navigate complex dynamics.
Because when you're aware, you can still choose your values. You don't have to betray who you are. You just learn how to move in spaces where power is real, even if it's unspoken. And honestly, that makes you more effective, not less authentic.
Right, because at the end of the day, this law isn't asking you to be fake, it's asking you to be wise, to understand that brilliance alone isn't enough. You also need timing, humility, and a deep sense of when to step back and when to step forward.
And there's power in both, in being seen and in being quiet, in leading and in letting others lead. When you master that balance, you stop chasing power and start embodying it.
Beautifully said. And I think that's the perfect segue into wrapping up this first episode. Because if there's one core takeaway from Law 1, it's this. Power is as much about perception as it is about action. If you ignore the emotional landscape around you, you'll lose, no matter how skilled you are.
But if you understand it, if you respect the egos, the structures, the invisible rules, then you can thrive, quietly, strategically, and on your own terms.
So to anyone listening, if you're walking into a room where someone else holds the power, don't rush to impress. Observe, learn, and when the moment's right, show your brilliance without shaking the ground they stand on.
So if we were to summarize this law in one sentence, I'd say it's this. Protect your light by knowing when to dim it and when to let it shine.
Yeah, because power isn't just about who's the smartest or most talented in the room. It's about who understands the room, who understands people, timing, perception. That's what makes someone influential in the long run.
And I want to say something especially for those who feel frustrated right now, like they're constantly overlooked or undervalued because they're playing this long game. Hang in there. Just because you're not being loud doesn't mean you're not making progress.
Yes, influence often builds in silence, in observation, in patience. The ones who last, the ones who rise in a sustainable way, are the ones who move with intention, not ego.
And remember, this law doesn't mean you need to stay small forever. It means understand the hierarchy you're in. If you want to grow, make the people above you feel safe with your growth. Let them be part of it, or at least not threatened by it.
Sometimes that means giving credit. Sometimes it means staying quiet for a moment. Sometimes it means asking questions instead of giving answers. That's not weakness. That's wisdom.
Because in the end, outshining the master might win you a few moments of praise, but it could cost you your entire position. Don't trade long-term power for short-term glory.
All right, that's a wrap on Law 1. But this is just the beginning. Every law in this book reveals another layer of how humans operate and how power really moves behind the scenes.
And we're going to unpack all of them one by one in this series. So if you found value in this episode, or if it made you think differently about how you move in certain spaces, we've got a lot more coming.
Make sure to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and drop a comment below. Have you ever experienced a situation where you accidentally outshone the master? What happened? We'd love to hear your stories.
And if you've got a specific law you're excited to hear us talk about, let us know. Maybe Law 6, Law 15? We're open to suggestions.
This podcast is about real talk, not just theory. We want you to take these ideas and apply them in your world, whether that's your job, your creative work, your relationships. Power is everywhere.
So thanks for being here with us for Episode 1. Law 1 taught us that power isn't just about showing up, it's about showing up smart. Let that guide how you move this week.
And remember, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is choose not to shine. Just yet.
We'll see you in the next one.
Take care and play the game wisely.